If they asked me, I could write a book about the way you walk and whisper and look.
Joining us now in our Book Talk segment, great to welcome to the show today a woman who's a best-selling author. I'm sure you've read her previous books, Really Important Stuff, My Dog Has Taught Me. She's got a new one out now called Really Important Stuff, My Kids Have Taught Me. We're joined today by Cynthia Copeland on the telephone. Cindy, good to talk with you. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I think we talked when the book about the dogs came out. Wasn't that about a year or two ago? I think we did.
Yes,
if I remember
was.
right. So good to have you back with us. You've been quite busy, I understand.
That's right. Actually, it's interesting because the kids' book was the one that kind of started it off because it was the original Really Important Stuff My Kids Have Taught Me book was written over 20 years ago.
Right.
I was dropping my daughter, Alex, who's now 26, off at preschool, and the teacher and I stopped to sort of watch the kids running around the playground, and one little girl skipped over to another who was standing alone by the door, and she said, "Come on, play, don't just watch." And the teacher and I stood there and we kind of absorbed this declaration about the importance of engaging in life rather than observing from the sidelines. And then the teacher looked at me and she said, "You know, some days I think the kids teach me more than I teach them." And it was like the proverbial light bulb in the cartoon over my head. I thought, this is a great idea for a book. So I wrote that book many years ago, and it was really very successful, and it kind of became a classic. And my editor and I said, on the 20th anniversary, let's put out a new edition, like kind of a greatest hits. You know, we'll find some great photos to go with our favorite aphorisms and add some stories and add some quotes, and we'll just change the format so it's really visually compelling. And that's what we did. So that's the book that you have in front of you there with that really cute little boy with the goggles on the front cover.
Who is that little kid?
I have no idea, but every time I have looked at this cover hundreds of times, and every time I look at that little kid, I smile. So I'm so glad that actually the cover was changed. It used to be a little baby underwater, and I like this one so much more. I'm so glad they went with this. You know, book covers tend to change back and forth until they finally settle on something, usually right before publication. So I was so happy it was this little guy because I love him.
Were you able to, when you kind of look back and decided to do the updated version, were you able to get in touch with any of the kids in the previous book, or did you have that access at all? That might have been kind of interesting.
Well, you know, of course, writing it, over 20 years ago, no internet, not even for sort of inspiration or ideas or anything. So I just used my own kids as the inspiration for the original book.
Oh, okay.
And I would just follow them, around the park and kind of watch them interact with other kids and watch how they saw the world, and went to school, with them and helped at school so I could watch them. It was just about kind of watching what they did and said and how they saw the world, and using that information to kind of inform the book. So it was just my own children who are now in their 20s who were my inspiration.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah. Now the pictures in this book, how did you get these?
Yeah. It was tough because I really was very picky because I love this book. It's my favorite book that I've ever written, and I wanted this new edition to be even better than the original. And so I was very selective about the photos we chose. It was a real collaboration. The folks at Workman Publishing, I think we had, a dozen people just constantly looking for the best possible photos to match with each little aphorism. So it was just a kind of a collaborative effort. I looked all the time. I was constantly looking at different places. We wanted something that got some National Geographic photos. You can tell those are the sort of global, sort of universal, really great photos from different countries. And then we have some vintage photos that I always love because they remind me of when I was a little kid, the black and white, old photos from like the 60s. And so it was just, it was a collaboration. We all looked to find the perfect photo for the perfect for each aphorism so that it would really, really work well.
You got some great pictures of kids doing things naturally. They're not posed pictures, or if they are, they don't look like they're posed pictures. So you got them in action doing things.
Exactly. That was kind of what I was going for, because I didn't want it to look like, either you're looking through someone else's like family photo album. I didn't want it to be like that kind of a feel. I wanted it to be a real natural, genuine feel, because that's the whole point of the book, is that kids see life, through this unfiltered lens, and the reactions to things are very genuine. And I wanted the photos to have that same feel.
How did you come up with the different sayings or slogans each time? Where'd you come up with those?
Of course, that was I wrote it so long ago, and it was just a matter of, like I said, just watching my kids, listening to my kids, being sort of really present with them all the time, and sort of seeing how they viewed the world. You know, kids just have the time to sort of see the big picture. They daydream. They allow themselves to get distracted by things. You know, they'll look at a puddle and you know, and think about you know, splashing in a puddle. They'll look at a dragonfly or a little piece of mica, and their view of the world is just so pure. It's so unaffected by things that they've heard or learned. They're just they like I said, they step back and they see the big picture. Adults are so busy and so focused on the little minutia of life that we've stopped seeing the big picture sometimes. And so it's really neat that kids see all sorts of possibilities that adults don't, and they think of all sorts of remarkable insights because they're sort of like jazz musicians, right? They're kind of spontaneous and they're free of inhibitions. They come up with all sorts of ideas. They don't care if something's practical. They're willing to try things that may or may not sound right, and they don't care if an idea they have is kooky or what people will think of it. They're really free that way, and that's the kind of the one I wanted to capture with the book.
You got one in here. I think I did this as a kid. At least I'm told I did. Even Superman probably tries to fly higher and faster, and you got a kid with a little cape on in his pajamas. I was told I did something like that. So when I was that age, superheroes, kids want to be that, right? Right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they teach us so many lessons. I mean, kids teach us about, you know, perseverance. I mean, they're the proverbial drops of water that wear away boulders, right? I mean, no is never the end of a conversation. They push and push and push because they've figured out that persistence is often the difference between success and failure. So they'll just keep pressing on. You know, they don't equate failing with failure. They'll just try again. They'll stumble and they'll get up and try again. And they teach us to be curious. You know, they're always asking questions. In fact, the average child asks 300 questions a day. I had no idea until I read that. And 4-year-old girls ask the most, 390 questions a day. So kids are always asking, and they always want to learn what's happening around them. And so they, you know, as a result of that, I think it's just you know, they have a lot of insights based on what they're learning and the information they're taking in.
I think my favorite is the really great picture you have. Every time you pass him, pat the dog, and you got the beagle, it looks like, and a little kid giving the dog a kiss.
Yes, I love that photo. You know, it's so funny because you asked about photos earlier. We went through a lot of photos before we came up with. They kept picking other ones. I said, nope, this isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. I just wanted a gentle child leaning over to pat the dog because it's just that chapter is about kindness and love and how kids will stop, and the dog looks a little bit sad, and the kid would absolutely stop and pat that dog in that photo because kids are very in tune to that kind of thing, and I wanted to make sure we captured that in that photo, and I think we really did.
Yeah, it's a great picture. Well, kids and dogs, they seem to have a special affinity, right, sometimes, more than grown-ups and dogs.
Exactly. Well, of course, my book, Really Important Stuff, my dog has taught me. It came out a year ago, and so you're right. I think there are some similarities. I noticed that when I was going back through this book. I thought, you know, just the way they're very exuberant and they have a zest for life and they're very much of the moment, you know. I mean, kids are very, you know, they embrace what's happening right at the time, which we love, and dogs do the same thing, so there are some similarities.
Well, it's a great book. Again, one of those types of books you can pick up, leaf through a few of these great sayings and look at the pictures and really makes you feel better. I think that's the point of it. And again, really important stuff my kids have taught me is the name of it. Cynthia Copeland has been our guest. Cindy, give out your website again. I know people want to get a hold of you or the book.
Sure, it's CynthiaCopeland.com, and they can follow me on my author Facebook page, which is just under Cynthia Copeland. And the book's available everywhere.
Great. Well, love to have you on when the next one comes out. I'm sure you have something in the works, but please keep in touch with us, and we'll talk to you then. But thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles Media.